Gary, you're chairman of the Amersham Museum, so you've been putting a lot into it for some time. But this project has been really quite something special, hasn't it?
Special is a word I would use. It's been a fantastic experience for all concerned. Admirably led by Emily, our curator, who inspires something approaching 80 people in total.
It is quite a large number of people too, and all seem to be very enthusiastic, don't they?
All of them were enthusiastic, they were hard-working, they worked long hours doing impossible things to meet a tough time scale. And you can't do that without inspired leadership, is what Emily provided.
And what do you think probably are the highlights of the Met project altogether?
It's an interesting one, that. The highlight, well, it was twofold. One is the building of the exhibition and the publicity of the exhibition, and the building and organising a team or several teams. That's one aspect which I can get into, but the other one, of course, is the number of visitors that actually turned up to see the exhibition. We'd have been delighted with 1,500 or 2,000, we thought maximum would be a good response. In the event, there was something approaching over 5,000 people in just over a fortnight, which is quite astonishing.
It certainly is.
And all who visited the exhibition were delighted and thrilled with what they saw. Not one, the exhibition was a huge and howling success, I'm delighted to say. Very little to do with me, except as a labourer in preparing the exhibition.
Well, I think also an able chairman and coordinator too. But in terms of other activities that people have got involved in as a result of this, are there any that sort of particularly come to mind as far as you're concerned?
Other activities, I think, has inspired a lot of people to become involved in the museum. They've seen what the museum is about in Amersham-on-the-hill, where we're not present. Obviously we have the museum here. But going out into the community is an aspect that I'm quite keen to see. I know Emily is too. And the exhibition is just a very good example of that. Yes. And it's brought the museum to a whole host of people who A, didn't know the museum existed in the old town, and B, they appreciate museums and the work we did in Amersham-on-the-hill.
And it's also got good media coverage too, hasn't it?
It has. During the preparation period and during the exhibition itself. Lots of media coverage, and that's always welcome in terms of the museum and its publicity, bringing it to the people. Yes, the media were very much involved. And no thanks to Gary Grant, who lent the exhibition space.
Absolutely, yes, yes.
And that was free.
Prime space too.
Prime space, ideal spot. As it turns out, we were looking at several others. That was the ideal one, and eventually he did let us use it, thank goodness. It was just perfect.
Excellent. Are there any things that, if you think back on it, that we might have learned some lessons from and done differently, or did it all just go smoothly?
That's a good question. At the time, of course, there were problems to solve as we went through. Wobbly hardboard panels to put on the wall, for example. These are trivial things. It went so smoothly, albeit hard work. Things don't go smoothly unless they're so well organised and people work hard. And the teams of volunteers were doing all sorts of odd things, from sandwiches at lunchtime to coffee to buying mail. Apart from that, I can't think of anything that could have gone better. I think the final result was a manifestation of everybody's enthusiasm and skills. It's amazing what people can do, you discover, when they come and volunteer. And it's not just a question about happy amateurs, one or two almost professional in their approach to it all.
Right, Ian, you bridge both Amersham Museum and London Transport, so you've been deeply involved in this project. Can you tell me a bit about your London Transport history?
Well, very much so. I spent virtually all my career with London Transport and subsequently London Underground. I'm an engineer by profession, electrical engineer, but also became a mechanical engineer because I became involved in the trains for the new Victoria line and was very much involved in the automation for the Victoria line. Subsequently, I did a number of jobs within London Transport and then London Underground, and towards the end of my career with them I was appointed Director of Passenger Services, so running the railway was my responsibility.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it was very appropriate that I should become involved with the Amersham Museum with the project to mark the 150th anniversary of the tube, which of course the London Transport Museum, which I'm also involved with, was also very much doing together with London Underground.
So you were able to bring the two together,
I
presumably?
was able to bring the two together and was able to provide the people at the Amersham Museum with a number of contacts at the London Transport Museum, which was obviously helpful to them.
Absolutely. And you've been volunteering for the Amersham Museum for some time before that as well?
Yes, one of the things I have now done for more years than I would like to remember is organise a steward's rota for the museum, and I'm a steward myself. And I also, way back in the around about, I think, late 1990s or early 2000, set up the Friends organisation for the museum,
Right.
which continues to this day.
Brilliant. And turning now to the project, the Metline project, how do you think it's gone? What do you...
Well, I think it was absolutely excellent. What was so amazing was the number of people who became involved and volunteered, right really from when Emily and Gary Gotch first thought of it as a project. We had a team initially of 4 people, which I think met round about once every month. We then obtained the Heritage Lottery grant fund of just under £10,000, which was a tremendous boost to the project. And fairly rapidly after that, other people became involved with different skills that they were able to contribute. And when all that came together in the disused shop at the top of Hill Avenue in Top Amersham, it really was a tremendous success. I think clearly identified by the number of people who came to visit.
Yes, that's right. How can you remember the exact number now?
Well, I think it was just around the under 5,000, which for a town the size of Amersham, I think, was a very high percentage
Absolutely.
of visitors.
And it has had quite some lasting effects for the museum, hasn't it, too?
Oh, very much so. I mean, people now, of course, are much more aware of the museum. It has always been quite surprising to me as a steward how few people actually realise the museum is here. Even people in the old town don't always know it's here or don't know when it's open. But to now involve people in Top Amersham, as well as from wider afield, in coming to visit the museum, which of course is absolute excellent in what it has to offer about life in a local town, that's been very good indeed.
And I think, by the sound of it, there are a lot of people in Top Amersham have actually shown a real interest in their own near local history too.
Oh, very much so. One of the things that the exhibition was able to show was how the Top Amersham developed because the railway came here. There was a possibility, of course, that the railway was never going to come here at all. It was going to go via High Wycombe to Aylesbury. But in the end, because certain landowners objected, the railway did come to Top Amersham. There was nothing in Top Amersham at the time other than a farm. It went on to Aylesbury, and of course Amersham then developed from there. And one of the things that the exhibition was able to show was, well, how the shops and other establishments in Top Amersham had developed over those last 100 years.
Yeah. Yes, and certainly I've seen people wanting to know about their own house and their own shop and this sort of thing too, so it's become personal.
It does become personal, and people of course could remember going into shops like Browning's or the Pram and Toy Bar or where Sainsbury's used to be. All those memories came flooding back.
If we were to do the project again, are there any things you would do differently or things where you might be able to improve upon?
If we were to do the project again, one of the essentials would certainly be to have an Emily, because it was Emily who drove this project. The volunteers that she had gathered around her to work on the project would not have come, I don't think, if it hadn't been for Emily's enthusiasm. No, I think one would run the project in a very similar way, perhaps get more people involved slightly earlier. It was a little bit of a rush at the end, but we made it and it came together. But perhaps a little bit longer in the gestation period might have been more helpful. But that would be my only comment, and it's not a criticism in any way. I think the team, and I don't want to include myself in that team, but I was, but the team did a marvellous job.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Ian. Right. Peter Haley, you joined the museum just before this project started, didn't you?
I did, yes. The first job I was given, having met Emily, was to work on the project with the grant just made, and the project could get going.
And what was the first project you were involved in?
Well, I started working on the railways, on a timeline really for how the railway came here, how it slowly moved out from London and how it reached here. And then really looking for photographs and anything else that particularly related to Amersham. And you quickly found out that Amersham was a bit of a side event as the railway went from Chalfont and Latimer through to Aylesbury. All the main dinners and the celebrations were in Aylesbury, understandably.
Yes, county town. Yeah, but now your career was in estate management and estate agency, wasn't it? And
well, it started in a state agency, but latterly it was PR and marketing,
right.
and I did get involved in that for the exhibition, doing work on Facebook and on Twitter and writing press releases, but also I'm a bit of a techie-minded guy, and I have been editing sound files of people's oral histories and video files and other bits and pieces. So my role changed really from a researcher to be a PR man, and then, like everybody else, a builder inside the exhibition shop in Amersham-on-the-hill, and anything else that Emily needed, really.
so a very interesting evolution of volunteering.
It was. I enjoy the research because I'm a bit of a closet historian. I did it at school, but no further. But I do love my history, and I love Amersham because it was where I was born, and I do remember a lot of the shops and other bits about Amersham when I was a child.
So that's perfect to sort of bring it all back again, and as a base for your research too.
It is, and you know, there's lots of things I found out on this project that I had no idea about Amersham. The importance of the railway, the importance of mains water drainage when it came, lots of other things about Amersham about which I knew nothing.
Interesting, very interesting. And you've also done a lot of editing, of course, of this project, this
Yes.
activity, and the other video histories that were produced for the project.
Yes, I enjoy sort of mucking about, as it were, cutting and rejoining videos and audio files, and I've done it really most of my life in amateur dramatics and other ways, and it fitted in well with the skill that Emily required, so I've worked on that quite extensively.
And you're very happy with the way the whole project has gone.
I did. I thought it was a very good project. A bit like Ian Arthurton, I think we needed a bit more time than the 8 months from the granting of the the grant from the Heritage Lottery Commission through to the date the exhibitions started. But other than that, it went with very few problems, really, considering how complex the whole project was.
And are there any things we might do differently if we were to do it again?
I think other than trying to start earlier, giving ourselves more time, no, I think it went remarkably well, considering the number of people at the end who were involved and some of them learning skills for the first time. So, no, I thought it really went very well indeed.
Excellent, thank you, Peter, very much. You started volunteering for the museum before the Metropolitan Line project started, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I started here in September 2012, and my first job then was to catalogue some maps which had been donated to the museum. Somebody had found them in their loft, and they were a complete assortment of maps. Some were very old audience survey maps dating back to the 1800s, and others were fairly newish maps, and also some planning permissions for houses to be built. A lot of them in the new town, of housing estates like the Weller estate, for example. So they were complete assortment and very interesting to look at.
And fitted in perfectly with what you're all about to do on the Met project as well, didn't they? So,
yes, it did, because a lot of the new plans were for houses built in the new town, such as on Station Road, for example, and as I just said, the Weller estate as well. So they were very relevant, yeah, and helped us to sort of see how the new town had grown up.
And what other things have you done as a result of during the Met project?
I was helping to extract information from some of the oral histories that we had taken from people. Most of these people were to do with Amersham-on-the-hill as opposed to the old town, and so we were trying to take their histories and see how Amersham-on-the-hill and Cheshire Boys had changed over the years since the Met line came to it, how it had grown up, because a lot of the people who we had oral histories from had seen the town go from relatively small beginnings to become the town that it is today, how much it had changed. Those are histories which were recorded quite some time ago, some of them, weren't they too? Yes, some of them were recorded a long time ago, and others we then updated with the same people, so we had sort of 2 oral histories from the same person, one quite a while ago, and then we updated it for now. And so the difference in them to see how they felt that the town had changed was quite interesting. Yes. They all had different ideas of whether the changes were good or bad. Some people felt that the progress was great, and other people felt that now nobody knew each other because the town had become too big and too busy, and everybody just went on with their lives, not caring about what was happening to their neighbours. So there were different viewpoints on what people felt.
Interesting. Now, are you happy with the way the whole project has gone?
Oh yeah, well, from my point of view, I really enjoyed listening to the oral histories and extracting the parts out that we could use for the exhibition. But it was also very good to meet other people who were a part of the exhibition as well, putting it together. It was great to transform the shop that we used for the exhibition to see how we could manage that, and there was lots of interesting information I found out about the Amersham-on-the-hill that I never knew before, so that was really good.
Matter of interest, how long have you lived in the Amersham area?
This time I moved back to Amersham in 2005,
Right.
But I used to live in Chesham in the 1990s.
All right, so you're definitely a local.
Well, I don't want to go that far. So, yeah.
If we were to do the project again, are there any things you feel we could have done differently?
Well, I think the whole process was handled really well, and what I really liked was all the enthusiasm from people, because people were so very enthusiastic about it. The only thing I'd say perhaps would be to have the exhibition for longer, because a lot of people said to me they weren't able to get there, even though it was on for a few weeks, you know, it just didn't fit in, and people said, oh, I would really like to have seen that. So, and I also feel it showed us that there's lots of information about the new town that we could use for the museum as well, you know, try to bring the Amersham-on-the-hill and the old town together.
Very interesting. Thank you very much.
Dave Morris, you joined the museum
Just a short while before the start of the project, didn't you?
I did, yes, a year ago.
And what were you doing at that time for the museum?
Well, I mean, I just came on board because I was looking for something to do, and I saw an advert for like general helping out at the museum, and I arrived, and they said we're doing a project about the railways, so, and would I like to help research? So I said, yeah, that sounds interesting, let's do it.
And what was your main part of your research?
My main focus was on the shops of Amersham-on-the-hill, so it's basically just finding out when they were built and following them through the era till the 60s.
And that must be interesting, going right through like that.
Yes, no, it was. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I found out loads of stuff, so I can't remember it all offhand, obviously, but yeah.
So that was quite an important basis for the presentation in the pop-up shop and so on as well, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. I mean, we had some boards that showed. We did one particular street, and there's a model that's sitting right to the right of it right now, which was built sort of off the back of that as well, showing the shops. Yeah, and it interested a lot of people as well. We had a lot of people coming in and commenting that we were used to work in that shop when Mr. Thingy was in charge and so on. So
yeah, so it
generated interest.
It brings back near memories and everything else.
Oh, it does. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you also, of course, had a lot to do with helping to produce the computer presentations, the touch screens and so on, didn't you?
That's right, yes. No, I've a background in IT, so I thought that would be an interesting challenge. Yes, so we've produced some touchscreen displays showing oral histories and some video and some other bits and pieces, which were, yes, built for the exhibition, which we're continuing to use in the museum.
So that's a lasting benefit from it.
It is indeed, yes. So that will continue to be added to as well, because obviously a lot of the material is relevant to the Metroland, but there's more that can be added. It's ever expandable. So
excellent.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're obviously pretty happy with the way the project has gone, by the sound of it.
Yes. No, I personally think it went very well. I've worked on plenty of projects elsewhere that haven't gone nearly so well. So it's definitely in the.
Yeah. And how did you find the team?
Oh, excellent. Everyone's just really friendly, and it was just a brilliant team to work with. Yeah.
Excellent.
Right.
Excellent. If you're thinking back, is there anything you think we might have done better or differently?
Well, like I said, I think everything went pretty smoothly actually. It just and everything fitted to time and to budget all pretty close to. So yeah, I mean I know others have said, and I tend to agree that if the exhibition had gone on longer, although obviously there are logistical issues with that in getting people in places, but you know we represented parts of the exhibition at the Amersham show in September, and a lot of people came to that as well. Some who had seen it before, some who hadn't. And they've been told about it and said, oh, you must see that. So, yeah. They'll have to come here now and they can see the remnants.
That's right. So hopefully there'll be a traffic builder in the process.
Oh, yes. Yeah, you'd hope so, yeah.
That's great. Dave, thank you very much indeed. Christine Standring, you've been a trustee of the museum for quite some time now, haven't you?
Yes, it must be about 15 years now.
15 years, so you've seen a lot change here, and
I
especially
have,
recently.
and it has opened up enormously, particularly over the last 2 years.
And you've been deeply involved, obviously, in the Metropolitan Railway project too.
Particularly, I've always been a railway enthusiast, and this was a great opportunity to explore some additional areas of the railway in this area.
Yes, and because you run the shop at the museum as well, don't you?
Yes, I run the shop in the museum, and I choose the books that we have on display. And we're always looking for items of current interest and relevant to particular events.
And you've in fact produced a book yourself for this project, haven't you?
Yes, this was a great excuse to do some more research into Metroland and to how the railway came to Amersham. And really, how Amersham has grown through transport over the years, whether it's been coaching inns or whether it's been the coming of the railway, which of course has resulted in us having a whole different town at the top of the hill.
Yes, very much so. And that has been really a new dimension for the museum too, hasn't it?
Oh, it has, because we had the pop-up exhibition, which brought in over 5,000 people and was very, very well received in the town.
Yes, and I certainly found that a lot of people were really interested in the near history, the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years, because it applied to their house or their street and so on.
We followed up with research into people's properties, into the development of particular roads, and it spun off all sorts of benefits for the area as a whole.
It's what do you think was the highlight? Was it the pop-up or was it?
I think that the pop-up exhibition was the highlight. We were very fortunate in having some wonderful displays, particularly of the shops in Top Amersham, and people were really engaged by just seeing it in the window as we set up. It was the best advertisement we could have.
Excellent. And how do you feel the team has got together on this? Because quite a lot of people have become involved now, haven't they?
I think that has been another great bonus for the museum. We've got an excellent curator who is always easy and pleasant with whoever's coming to volunteer, and people have stuck with us and done all sorts of activities beyond the Metroland exhibition itself, and I'm sure we'll be involved in plans for the future as the Victorians are included on the curriculum, and we're looking at local history, particularly in relation to the Victorians.
That's interesting. Very
and
interesting.
More railways.
Right. Turning back to the Metline project, is there anything you think we could have done differently looking backwards, or better, or anything like that?
The one thing that I think we could have done differently is to have the exhibition over a longer period or over several periods, but the stretch of our resources was just too great. We were particularly fortunate in being allowed the premises with moderate cost, and those premises are still open, but the effort of putting it all together again would be huge and probably the wrong time of the year. But that would be great if so many people have said, oh, I didn't get there. I do wish I'd seen it.